My family spent years belittling me as the quiet outsider who would never measure up, but when I finally built my own success, they tried to use me like an ATM, until one dinner bill worth over $3,000 changed everything. I always sensed my family's low estimation of me as I grew up. I was the distinct anomaly, the reserved child who never quite conformed to their expectations. While my cousins routinely boasted about their weekend parties and designer apparel, I was the diligent one, dedicating my time to learning, toiling, and meticulously planning my departure. My interest wasn't in impressing anyone, least of all my haughty, self-indulgent relatives. Yet, as destiny would have it, I ultimately made my mark. I toiled relentlessly, established something entirely for myself, and accumulated more wealth than any of them had ever seen. Not that they openly acknowledged it, or rather, not that they ever admitted their awareness. They simply feigned ignorance of my success until an opportunity arose for them to capitalize on it, which leads us to this very evening. I had not anticipated encountering them tonight. In fact, I had spent years meticulously sidestepping these family gatherings, as they invariably followed the same pattern: patronizing comments, insincere smiles, and constant reminders that no matter my accomplishments, I would always remain merely marked to them, the perpetual outsider. However, my mother, bless her kind spirit, had virtually implored me to attend. Just one dinner, Mark, for me. It's been years. I yielded. I instantly regretted at the moment I stepped into that exorbitantly priced steakhouse. The entire extended family was already assembled at a lengthy, sprawling table, their laughter and conversations creating a scene straight out of a motion picture. My cousin Jason, my chief tormentor during our youth, occupied the central position, grinning as if he presided over the establishment. The instant his gaze found me, that grin broadened. Oh, look who decided to grace us with his presence. Jason leaned back in his chair, his voice projecting loudly enough to draw a few curious glances. Didn't think you had time for us, big shot. I managed a polite smile and began to pull out a chair near the far end of the table. Jason's brow furrowed. Sorry, Mark, but that spot is occupied. I surveyed my surroundings. The only vacant seats were either beside Jason or his equally complacent sister, Rachel. I reached for a different chair, but Rachel dismissively rolled her eyes. That one too. I blinked. You're joking. Jason chuckled, leaning forward with his elbows resting on the table. Mark, this table is reserved for family. You might find a spot outdoors. Laughter erupted, not from everyone, but from enough individuals to make my jaw clench. My mother appeared visibly uncomfortable, but she remained silent, as she always did. My aunt offered a sly smirk, my uncle shook his head as though I were some embarrassing jest, and Jason looked thoroughly pleased with himself. I could have departed. I truly should have departed. But instead, I offered a subtle smile. Outside, you say? I mused. No, I'll remain. I retrieved an unoccupied chair from an adjacent table and deliberately pulled it over, positioning it just beyond the main cluster, but still sufficiently close to technically be part of the table. A waiter approached, appearing uncertain, but I merely waved him off and requested a coffee. Jason and Rachel exchanged a look, but they offered no immediate argument. Not yet. Then, the true spectacle commenced. I was not naive. I understood their motivation for my presence. They held no interest in genuine rapport. They sought only to flaunt their status. Throughout the entire meal, they ostentatiously ordered the most expensive items from the menu. I'll have the Wagyu, Jason declared, snapping his menu shut, and the lobster. Oh, and another round of beverages for everyone. He shot me a knowing smirk. We are celebrating after all. Rachel chimed in with a grin. Indeed, we should truly indulge ourselves tonight. And desserts too, my uncle added. Procure the most extravagant ones. The waiters continued their service, and the expenditure steadily escalated. I uttered nothing. I simply sipped my coffee, observing them with an air of mild amusement. Then, when the plates lay empty, the wine glasses drained, and everyone was reclining with contented sighs, the waiter arrived with the bill. $3,247. He placed it directly before me. Jason stretched languidly. You've got this, right, Mark? Rachel giggled. Come on, it's trivial for you. Silence descended. The entire table now focused their gaze on me, awaiting my response. I allowed the moment to linger, then slowly took up the bill, perusing it as if the total genuinely concerned me. Then I chuckled a soft, knowing sound. Jason frowned. What's so amusing? I leaned back, took another slow sip of my coffee, and grinned. Oh, I said, you people have no conception of who is settling this tonight. And with that, I placed the bill back down precisely in front of Jason. Jason stared at the bill, blinking repeatedly as if attempting to comprehend the unfolding scene. I reclined, appearing entirely at ease, watching the confusion propagate across the table like wildfire. Wait, you're serious? Jason's voice lowered slightly, but a nervous tension now permeated it. His confident grin wavered, if only for a fleeting second. I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I took another deliberate sip of my coffee, observing his expression shift from bewilderment to dawning realization, then to something considerably more sinister. Rachel, noticing the change, gave Jason a swift nudge. "Isn't your company thriving, Mark?" she inquired sweetly, the undertone of sarcasm almost imperceptible. "Surely a modest dinner like this won't create a dent in your finances." There it was, the expectation, the presumption that I was obligated to subsidize their extravagance simply because I was the prosperous one. They had no regard for the arduous effort it took to reach this point. They cared nothing for the years I had toiled tirelessly, building my own enterprise from its foundation. All they cared about was the capital they believed I should share with them. But this was not merely about money. No, this was about their conviction that they could mistreat me with impunity while simultaneously profiting from my achievements. Jason attempted once more, his voice now more forceful, though his smile was more of a taut grimace. "Come on, Mark. You know you can afford it." He glanced at the waiter and then back at me, as if offering one last opportunity for me to be the amenable individual. "The bill is substantial, but you're a businessman, right? Just swipe that card and conclude the evening." My mother, who had remained silent until this juncture, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "Mark, darling, please. It's merely a dinner. It's a family gathering, and you know how they behave." Her voice trailed off, as if she were striving to maintain harmony, but I could discern she wasn't entirely on their side. My mother had always been the conciliator, the one who consistently avoided causing friction, but this time I could sense the frustration simmering beneath her composure, the way she recognized I was being exploited but lacked the courage to intervene. I gently set the coffee cup down and surveyed the faces staring at me. My uncle, his ample stomach spilling over the top of his chair, was now leaning forward, his voice gruff. "Look, Mark, I don't know what's gotten into you, but don't pretend we're unaware of your circumstances. You've been accumulating significant wealth for months now. Don't be childish. Settle the bill, and let's go home." He was virtually issuing a command now, his tone cold and calculating. The others around the table nodded, some still smirking, others simply awaiting my capitulation under the pressure. It was evident they anticipated I would yield, that I would simply pay to circumvent the awkwardness. But I wasn't going to yield. Not this time. Not after all these years of being disparaged, of being the one they perpetually mocked or disregarded when it was inconvenient for them. And it wasn't just that. No, there was an additional, deeper satisfaction in observing them squirm, now completely unaware of what was truly about to transpire. I smiled subtly, not a wide, triumphant grin like Jason's, but a small, almost playful smirk. "All right," I stated, my voice calm and composed. "I'll pay the bill." A chorus of relieved sighs echoed around the table. Some even clapped me on the back, as if I had just secured some moral triumph. But I was not finished yet. Not by a long shot. Jason's face brightened. "See, that wasn't so difficult, was it?" He offered a mocking salute. "Thanks, big shot." I leaned forward, my smile unwavering. "No, I've changed my mind. Good luck, everyone." The silence at the table was instantaneous, as if someone had pressed a mute button. For a moment, no one stirred, no one uttered a sound. Jason's expression shifted from confident assurance to something considerably darker. He opened his mouth to protest, but I was already standing, reaching for my jacket. I wasn't departing just yet, but I intended for them to feel the mounting tension. "By the way," I added, my voice low, "if you wish to avoid responsibility for this substantial check, you might want to reconsider your ordering habits next time." Jason's eyes were wide now, no longer those of the self-assured cousin who had always taken advantage of me. His jaw clenched, and he glanced around the table, clearly unsure of his next move. He had anticipated me being the customary punching bag. Instead, I was establishing the new rules. I turned to leave the table, walking deliberately, fully aware they would follow the script I had laid out. The waiter still stood there, patiently waiting for someone to assume responsibility. And then I heard it. "Hey!" Jason snapped. "You can't just..." But I didn't allow him to conclude his sentence. "I'll be over there," I called back, gesturing toward the lounge area a few feet away, just out of sight from the main dining room. "Just inform me when you've resolved it." I walked away. I could sense the palpable tension in the air as I made my way to the lounge. They had no idea how to manage this. They believed they could push me, manipulate me with guilt, and I would simply capitulate as I always had. But this time, I refused to participate in their charade. Their arrogance, their sense of entitlement, they were about to receive an unforgettable lesson. As I settled into the plush armchair, I glanced back towards the dining area. Jason was standing there now, nervously adjusting his collar, conversing in hushed tones with Rachel and my mother. Their voices were barely audible for my position, but I could distinguish a few words. Mark's not going to. He'll pay, right? Don't upset him. We need him for the bill. Do we have enough? The desperation was painfully obvious. They were attempting to ascertain who could cover what, calculating how much they could conceivably scrape together without actually dipping into their own funds. They were on the verge of discovering that, this time, I would not be their safety net. Minutes elapsed. I checked my phone, feigning complete nonchalance, but every few seconds, I would glance over, just to catch a glimpse of their escalating panic. The waiter continued to linger nearby, probably casting disapproving glances, awaiting their decision. The longer the situation persisted, the more unequivocally clear it became that they were completely out of their depth. It wasn't long before Jason made his way over to me, looking as though he had just navigated a chamber filled with scorching coals. His face was a fusion of frustration and something akin to shame. I remained seated, taking my time before finally looking up at him. "What's happening?" I inquired, maintaining a casual tone. He exhaled sharply, striving to maintain composure. "Mark, this isn't humorous. The bill is substantially higher than we anticipated. Can you just assist us this once? I mean, we are family, aren't we?" I couldn't help but emit a small, dry chuckle. "Oh, I'm not amused, Jason. I'm quite serious. You all desired this meal. You ordered whatever you pleased without consulting me about my willingness to cover it. And now you're requesting that I foot the bill for the wine, for everything?" He paused, swallowing hard. "Look, man, we didn't realize it would be like this. I mean, it's just dinner, right? Can't you just, lend a hand?" I leaned back in the chair, allowing his words to hang in the air for a moment. This was the same worn-out performance they perpetually enacted. No self-awareness, no accountability. They cared nothing for me. They simply cared about my money. "Jason, I'm finished with this charade," I finally declared. "You are all adults, correct? You are perfectly capable of paying for your own meals. I am no longer your personal financier. I do not care if you are my family. That does not imply I owe you anything." His expression shifted from desperation to something more defiant, his eyes narrowing. "You're going to force us to pay for all of this, after everything we've supposedly done for you? After all the times we've allegedly been there for you?" I shot him a level gaze. "What do you mean, all the times? You mean all the instances you've asked me to pay for everything while you sat back and behaved as though I owed you something? That hardly qualifies as being there for me, Jason." Behind him, Rachel and my mother were observing intently, and I could discern their increasing anxiety with each passing second. They realized this was not proceeding according to their designs. I could almost see the gears turning in Rachel's mind, likely attempting to contrive some method to manipulate the situation. My mother, conversely, appeared more distraught than I had ever witnessed her. "Well, we can't simply depart, can we?" Rachel's voice was now high-pitched, cracking with palpable stress. "I mean, we're not just going to abandon a $3,000 bill. That would be utterly irrational." I raised an eyebrow. "No one is abandoning anything, Rachel. You all are staying and paying. I am done with this pretense. I do not care if you are my family. You have been taking advantage of me for years, and I am done." Jason's face was now flushed crimson, frustration bubbling to the surface. "You cannot be serious. You're just going to let us suffer here? We're saddled with the bill, Mark, and you. I'm saddled with the bill?" I interrupted. "You believe I am the one who made those choices? You all decided what you were ordering. You made the decisions. Now, contend with the repercussions." Rachel opened her mouth to argue, but my mother interjected, her voice trembling. "Mark, please, this isn't the appropriate moment for this. We are family, remember? Just help us out. You can afford it." Her words hung in the air like a palpable weight. They knew I could afford it. That was the core issue. They understood my income, my accomplishments, but they never perceived that success as something I had earned. No, they merely viewed it as an opportunity to exploit me. I rose slowly, straightening my jacket. "No, I cannot afford it, Mother. Jason can. Rachel can. But I am not rectifying your predicament this time." I turned toward the waiter, who had been hovering nearby, clearly apprised of the unfolding drama. I met his gaze and gave him a swift nod, signaling that my involvement had ceased. And just like that, I proceeded toward the exit, without a backward glance. I overheard the murmurs as I stepped out of the lounge and into the cool evening air. I did not look back. The sound of footsteps pursuing me caused my pace to slacken, but I had no intention of turning around. They had excavated their own pit. Now it was time to ascertain the depth they would need to dig to extricate themselves. It wasn't long before I reached the parking area, my hands tucked into my pockets as I stood by my car. I could discern the distinct sound of heels approaching, and then Rachel's voice calling my name. "Mark, wait." I offered no response. My heart rate remained steady. I was composed, but I could hear the desperation in her plea, her attempt to ensnare me back into their familiar drama. I no longer wished to engage in this particular game. "Mark," she called again, her voice quivering. "You cannot just abandon us. Please, this is grave. I turned, cutting her off mid-sentence. "You truly believe I am unaware of what is serious, Rachel? You actually think I don't understand precisely what you are doing?" She halted abruptly in her tracks, and for a moment, silence reigned. The wind rustled through the trees, and I could sense the tension between us. She struggled to formulate words, but I would not permit her. Not this time. "You have been exploiting me for years," I declared, my voice quiet but resolute. "Every time an issue arises, it's Mark. You'll cover this, won't you? It's never, hey Mark, how are you? It has consistently revolved around what I can do for you." "Well, I am done." Her eyes flickered, and I could detect a fleeting glimpse of guilt across her face before she swiftly masked it with an angry expression. "You cannot simply leave us in such a predicament," she snapped, her voice escalating. "We require you. You cannot just walk away from family when we are facing a tough situation." I felt my jaw tighten, but I compelled myself to remain calm. "I am not abandoning family, Rachel. I am walking away from your sense of entitlement. This isn't familial connection. This is manipulation, and I am through letting you use me." For a moment, she merely stood there, her face flushed, attempting to devise her next statement. But before she could respond, I observed Jason and my mother emerge from the restaurant, looking utterly frantic. Jason's shirt was partly untucked, and he appeared as though he had been running. My mother's expression was a blend of culpability and panic, her eyes wide as she spotted me standing there, just beyond their reach. "Mark, please. We don't know what we are going to do," my mother exclaimed, her voice cracking. "We cannot afford this. You are the only one who can assist us." Her words impacted me, but not in the manner she had anticipated. I experienced a peculiar, almost detached satisfaction as I witnessed their desperation unfold. They had relentlessly pushed me for so long, and now they were realizing that every action carried a price. "You think I'm just going to extricate you again, HM?" I inquired, my voice even softer now. "You believe this is solely about money? Well, it's not. This is about respect. This is about recognizing that I've toiled tirelessly to achieve my current standing, and you cannot simply continue to exploit me when circumstances don't favor you." Jason took a step forward, his hands extended in a pleading gesture. "Mark, come on, don't do this. We're family. You got to comprehend, this isn't just about the money, it's about—" "No, Jason," I interrupted, my tone now firm. "It has consistently been about the money for you. The instant you presumed I would pay, you ceased to consider me as an individual. You perceived me as an automated teller machine." I could see Jason's face redden as he struggled for words, his mouth opening and closing like a stranded fish. It was as if he could not believe this was transpiring, as if he could not fathom that I would not simply succumb to the pressure. I glanced at my mother, who now appeared even more distraught, her eyes darting between me and the restaurant, likely wondering if I would return inside and resolve the problem for them. But I would not. "Not this time. You've made your bed. Now you must lie in it," I stated, turning away. "I am finished here." Before they could utter another word, I opened the door to my car and slid inside. I started the engine, the gentle hum of the vehicle filling the silence between us. I could see their figures in my rearview mirror, still standing there, frozen in disbelief. But I was not about to feel remorse for them. They had their opportunity. They always had their opportunity. As I drove away, I experienced this profound sense of liberation. For once, I was not the victim. I was not the one who was going to be exploited. And as the restaurant faded into the distance, I understood I had made the correct decision. They had overstepped. Now it was time for them to confront the repercussions of their actions. I hadn't traveled far when my phone vibrated, and I instantly knew it was them. I didn't bother to answer. Let them call, let them text. I was not picking up anymore. But of course, they did not relent. They did not simply let it go. By the time I reached my residence, there were 6 missed calls from my mother, 4 from Jason, and a text message from Rachel that read, "Mark, we're genuinely sorry. Please come back. We will reimburse you. Please don't abandon us like this." I stared at the text for an extended moment, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. But I did not reply. I didn't need to. They had no idea just how badly they had miscalculated. I tossed my phone onto the sofa and retrieved a cold drink from the refrigerator. My apartment was quiet. I could hear the faint murmur of distant traffic outside, the soft hum of the refrigerator, and nothing else. The silence felt immeasurably superior to the turmoil I had just left behind. But as the minutes elapsed, I began to experience this peculiar blend of satisfaction and something else, perhaps relief. It was no longer about the money. It was about finally asserting myself, something I had never truly accomplished with them. Just then, I heard the distinctive sound of my phone vibrating again. I glanced over. It was another text from Rachel. This time, it was succinct and direct. "We cannot pay the bill. It's $3,000. Please help." That was it. I gazed at the message for a long time. It felt almost surreal. $3,000, the very sum they had casually imposed upon me earlier, believing it to be insignificant. I pondered how they had fully expected me to cover it all, how they had planned their entire evening around me settling the check, as if it were nothing. I felt no pity for them, not in the slightest. I settled back down onto the couch, cracking open the drink, and watched the screen, anticipating the inevitable follow-up calls. It was like clockwork. Not even 5 minutes later, the phone vibrated again, this time with a call from Jason. I answered it. "Mark," he began, his voice thick with frustration. "Look, we understand you're upset, but we urgently need your help. We cannot cover this. You simply must assist us." I could hear the desperation in his voice, the sheer panic. It almost prompted a smile, but I suppressed it. "Jason, I already informed you," I stated, my voice even. "You need to resolve this yourselves. You've gotten yourselves into this predicament. It is not my concern." "But Mark, you don't comprehend. This is family," Jason snapped, his words tumbling out. "You're just going to abandon us to deal with this on our own? After everything we've endured together? Everything we've been through? Everything we've been through?" I repeated, incredulous. "You mean the years of you all treating me like a personal ATM? The endless requests for assistance that invariably came with unspoken conditions? Is that what you mean?" There was a pause on the other end, then a protracted sigh. "I didn't intend it that way, Mark. Please, we're not exploiting you. We just require help." "Help?" I queried. "What I've been providing you isn't help, Jason. It's enabling.
And you know what?
You'll figure it out. You're competent adults. If I continue to extricate you, you will never learn." The silence that ensued was heavy. He offered no further argument. I knew he comprehended my words, even if he was unwilling to concede it. "Good luck, Jason," I concluded, my tone colder now. "You'll undoubtedly need it." I disconnected the call before he could utter anything else. The remainder of the night passed tranquilly. I enjoyed my beverage, put on a film, and allowed everything to unfold naturally. True to form, I received one final text from my mother reading, "Mark, please, if you're still displeased, we will compensate you. Just please return and settle the bill." But I did not reply. They were on their own now. The following day, I ascertained they had been unable to settle the bill and had been compelled to make some rather embarrassing calls to their own acquaintances for financial assistance. I heard they even had to secure a loan to cover a portion of it. The most mortifying detail, the restaurant manager had publicly admonished them for attempting to invoke the family card and for manipulating others to cover their irresponsible expenditures. They were utterly humiliated. And I felt not a single iota of guilt. In the end, the genuine reward wasn't the money, nor the satisfaction of observing their struggle. It was the undeniable fact that, for once, I had seized control. I had finally established a firm boundary, and that was worth immeasurably more than any meal I could have paid for. I was no longer going to be their pawn. I had learned the difficult truth that sometimes the most profound way to care for family is to allow them to stand independently, even if it entails them stumbling severely. I had fulfilled my role. Now it was their turn to navigate their own consequences.